Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Endgame podcast. Today, my guest is Kylie Lucas. She is a softball player that I know, and we're just going to talk softball, kind of sports strategy, that kind of thing. How are you doing today, Kylie?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So let's just jump into it. When do you start playing softball?
I started playing when I was about 4 years old, and I started playing t-ball.
Okay. And then once you kind of got past that young stage when you were just happy to be there, when you knew what was going on, what kept you around the sport?
Well, I started playing coach pitch when it was a lot slower when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I really started getting into it when I was probably about 10 because the game started to get a lot faster and I started to become good, and I just like the fast pace of it and being with my team.
Yeah, okay. So, what positions do you play now that it's high school ball and all that?
I'm a pitcher and utility. So when I'm not pitching, my coach just kind of puts me wherever because of my speed and my agility.
Okay, so is that more infield or outfield?
Probably infield.
Okay, because when you say speed, I think like center field and all that.
Yeah, I do. If I'm not playing infield, I do play a lot of center field. But I would say I play more infield.
Okay, cool. And what do you find challenging about pitching or being utility?
Just being thrown in a position in the middle of the game, you kind of, if you're playing outfield, you kind of have to know like the weather conditions. If it's windy out, the ball might carry. If you get hit, a pop fly. If you're in the infield, just kind of knowing how the other team is base running, that's kind of difficult sometimes. Because when you're pitching, that's all behind you, so you don't pay attention to all that. But when you're in the infield, you have to pay a little bit more attention.
Yeah, and it's especially like knowing the plays and all that, because there's certain scenarios where there's only things that you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So, how much of your week, like hours, do you think you spend on softball?
Well, right now, obviously none, but before, probably 6 out of the 7 days a week. Sometimes all day, every day.
And that includes like highlights, videos, anything. Just when softball is involved, not just playing.
Yeah, probably about 7 days of the week.
It's a lot.
Yep.
Is that how much it takes to get good? Do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because when you're not playing, you're practicing or you're watching videos of yourself to try to find drills to make yourself better, or talking to college coaches to try to get yourself recruited to play college softball if you want to make it that far or whatever.
And I don't exactly know the different levels we're at, but like you have minor league for MLB and all that. Is there a minor league for softball? I assume.
No, it's just travel, summer ball, high school ball, kind of all the same level, and then, well, it's not really, but it's kind of the same age group. And then you play college, and then you usually go to the pros. There's nothing in between.
Okay. And is that just because of the size of the game and all that? Just less people, or not
Yeah,
necessarily less people, but less demand, I guess.
probably, yeah.
I was muted that whole time. That's fantastic. Um, so no, what I said was, is there obviously being utility and all that is difficult, but practicing, are there different drills that you do for the different positions beside pitcher? So like outfield or versus like shortstop or something?
Yeah, for outfield, if I'm practicing outfield at that practice, we do a lot of drop stepping, just kind of getting behind the ball, making sure that you're seeing, even like when you're drop stepping, your back's gonna be to the ball for just for a second, but just keeping your eye on the ball and going all out for it. And then for infield, just probably keeping your body in front of it. So a lot of people have the habit of, including myself, have the habit of keeping your body in front of it, but maybe you aren't seeing it all the way through. It's kind of hard to explain to someone who doesn't play softball, but
Well, how do you get rid of that?
How do you get rid of what?
Like, not seeing it through.
Oh, the coaches will slow the practice down a little bit, because sometimes if the ball is coming at you faster, that's when you have the habit of not getting behind it, just because you have that tiny bit of fear in you. I mean, you say that you're not scared of the ball, but when it's a lot faster, it's kind of
Yeah, because
scary.
you don't want to get hit. Like, no one does.
So that's when the coaches will hit the balls a little softer, make sure everyone gets their basics back to normal, and then we'll pick the speed up again.
And is that probably the most difficult thing with, like, moving from, elementary slow pitch into junior high fast pitch to high school and so on?
Yeah, definitely the speed. But I think it gets funner as it gets faster. So
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, like, being a runner and all that. Track isn't fun unless you're, like, doing well in your races.
yeah.
So I definitely like staying with the speed and all that, because honestly, that's probably why I just quit enjoying baseball, because I played up until 6th grade, and 6th grade was just not fun because I wasn't fast enough to like hit and all that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, like, what advice would you give someone like dealing with that speed change?
With the faster speed change?
Just any of the speed changes, because like you said, it only gets faster, right?
Right. I would say if they've practiced and they can't deal with. Okay, because here's the thing. If you watch college softball or pro or even the high school or travel ball level, the speed, when you watch it, the speed of the game is so much faster than it is when you're playing. When you're playing, if you can kind of slow everything down as you're playing, it becomes so much easier. Because if you're just calm and relaxed and just do what you know how to do, it's easy. But when you start getting worked up and you get anxious and you start overthinking everything, that's when it becomes hard. So I would definitely say just slowing everything down in your mind will definitely slow everything down in the game. That works 100%.
So, at what point does the practice go from like I know how to field and all that to like I guess just dealing with the stress?
Probably when we start playing games. Because when we start playing games, our practices revolve more around what we needed to work on during those games. So working on our weaknesses rather than just practicing fundamentals.
Yeah. How many games do you play a week during your different seasons? Because you play high school and then summer ball, correct?
For high school, a week we could probably we play about 28 games a season, but sometimes we'll play 4 or 5 games a week. Just it kind of depends. Sometimes we might only play 3 because with it being in the spring, it rains a lot, or it's just super cold. And then for summer ball, it kind of just depends. Usually we'll play about 6 to 8 games a weekend.
And is summer ball more regulated, or is it kind of just a club like, hey, we think that we're going to schedule a game this week, let's see who's available?
No, your coach will put you in tournaments, and then the tournament, you'll play 3 to 4 pool games on Friday or Saturday, and then on Sunday, you'll play bracket play. So whether that's double elimination, whether single elimination, whatever it is. So when you're in a tournament on Sunday, it kind of just depends on how good you guys do in the bracket.
So it's more similar to like, say, a little league like all-star team or something. That kind of play, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And how much does it take, like, going into one of those weekends? Because obviously, not all your tournaments are going to be nearby. Like, there's
Right.
travel, all that stuff. Like, what mentally does it take just to get through playing 8, 9 games a weekend?
That can sometimes become super difficult because you're playing in the summer. When you're playing in July, end of June, that's when it starts getting really hot. And some of the games we play are on turf. And when you play on turf, it gets really hot in the summertime. I don't know why. I think it's just like the rubber beads.
Yeah.
And so drinking a lot of water throughout the week and just kind of planning ahead for your tournaments, I would definitely say keeps you prepared. Because if you don't drink the water through the week, you're not going to be feeling good on your first game day.
Yeah. And then, like, in between those games, how much turnaround is between each of those games? Because obviously you're playing so many of them in the weekend. There's only so much time in a day.
Right. Sometimes the bigger tournaments, they'll start playing Wednesday, Thursday. Some of the tournaments will start playing on Friday and then they usually end on Sunday. But most of the smaller ones, it's just Saturday and Sunday. And then you could have a back-to-back game. You could have a 2-hour break, 3-hour break. It kind of just depends on how many teams there are and how many fields. Because I've played 4 games back to back to back. I've had a 3-hour break before. It kind of just depends on the fields, how many there are.
Yeah. And how many people do you like to keep on your team? Are there regulations for that?
No, I don't think so. Usually, every team I've been on, there's usually about 11 or 12.
So you're playing most of the game.
Yeah. But usually the tournaments that are further away, like we had a tournament in Tennessee last year, we usually take a little bit more people just in case, someone gets hurt. It's not like a sub can drive all the way down to Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the furthest you've gone for a tournament?
I believe so, yes. Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So after, like, someone does high school ball and all that, do they have to go through college? Or is it like, MLB where they can just skip, minors and all that and just go straight to major leagues?
I believe they have to play college first, but I'm not sure because I know pro fast pitch is somewhat new.
Yeah, I mean, most of the rules regarding eligibility and all that stuff just, it's super confusing anyways.
Yeah, I believe they have to go through college first though, or play it
Okay.
like probably at least 2 seasons, I would say, if not all 4.
Yeah. I mean, besides baseball and, say, running, I can't necessarily think of any other sports where that's a thing, where you can just jump.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. So, where do you see, like, the future of softball just in general? Not for you, just the game. Where do you see it going?
Well, I see it honestly, I can see it becoming pretty popular just because there's so many people out there that are influencers of softball, I guess, and that are trying to make it more popular. I know this year there was a softball camp at some NFL stadium, I can't think of it right now, that was on New Year's Eve, and it's really popular, and this group of influencers have even came out with their own catching equipment, pitching equipment. They came out with Nike softball apparel, And I think with more people doing that kind of thing, it's going to become really popular. And with it being back in the Olympics, I think it's going to have growth.
Okay. So that brings up a few good questions that I have now, but I'm going to kind of go back to that first question I had, like the direction the game is going. So I meant more so the like the style of play. You know what I mean? So like, do you think it'll just continue to get faster in the pros? Like they're just going to keep finding, new ways to play, or do you think they're sticking with like the different strategies they use now?
Oh, I see. I think it's to become faster because with more training techniques and drills you can do nowadays, and there's so many more technological pieces of equipment you can use to. I know for practicing, my coach has this one. It's a softball, and it has a sensor in the inside of it. So when I pitch, he can see on his iPad the RPMs, which is like the rotations per minute.
Yep.
So I think with technology like that, people are getting a more detailed idea of what they need to work on, what they need to do in their training. I know I have a sensor on my bat that lets my hitting coach know, things that she needs to work on during our lessons,
Yeah.
just kind of different details like that. So I think it's definitely going to get faster with people having a more detailed response.
Yeah, and I mean, softball and baseball have always been like a numbers game. So do you think that the new tech is just going to like further increase that and like incorporate the numbers into training more?
Yes, I think so.
And then you mentioned like the technological equipment, like what equipment? I mean, you touched on the ball that measures RPMs and your bat that shows, speed and all the different stuff. But like, what equipment do you use? Like, is there a certain type of bat that just stands out from the rest, or does it matter? It's all personal preference.
As far every piece of softball equipment to me, I think it's all personal preference. For my glove, I like Easton a lot. As far as my bat goes, I really like Louisville Slugger Xenos, because Louisville Slugger has a lot of different fast pitch bats, but I like the Xeno brand. Batting gloves, I'll only use Easton's because all the other batting gloves give me blisters. Cleats, kind of just a personal preference thing again. So I don't think there's one brand that's just superior to every other brand. I think it's all personal preference and what you feel most comfortable in.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely like looking at the different running equipment and all that, you can definitely like not have a good experience with a certain brand, and that could be just from how it fits or something like that.
Right. Yes.
So just one other thing that you brought up the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that the postponement until 2021 of the Summer Olympics is going to affect the U.S. softball team going into that?
I've seen Twitter posts on it, Instagram posts on it. All the girls just keep on saying that, that's another year that they have to train. And Monica Abbott is a pitcher on the U.S. softball team, and she'll play in next year's Olympics when they decide to postpone it, and she'll be 38 years old. That is the oldest. I believe that is the oldest person to participate in the Olympics. I believe for softball.
I was going to say for softball, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I believe that there's a few of the marathoners that are up there in their 30s. I think there's a sprinter too. Justin Gatlin, I believe, is 38.
Yes.
Yeah, he is 38. Yeah. Well, anyways, but do you see that as more of an opportunity for them to like train more? Or do you think that there's going to be an increase of, these college athletes that, had their senior season taken away from the virus, but being able to, use that to propel them onto the team?
That's a tough question. I could see it both ways, but honestly, I don't know what they're going to do. I think in one way they're going to just have the opportunity to train more and just better their athletes because, like I've said before, with all these technological advances, I think that's really going to help them out. But
Yeah, but do you see the pros like just kind of overlooking that everyone else gets another year too?
yeah, that
Because
is a
right
really
now, because going into the trials or however they decide their team, they had an idea that this person, and this person are going to be on the team, and we'll have to wait another year for, this college senior and this other college senior. But now that pool of athletes is getting thrown right into it and could shake up the team and cause, some drama, I guess, next year.
yeah. I don't I don't know because I know not every pro softball player that plays in the U.S. plays for Team USA. I know there are a lot of pro athletes that play in Japan, and there are a couple that play in Mexico. So just because they play pro softball in the U.S. does not mean they have to play for Team USA.
No, yeah. So when they decide to go pro, you said there's the teams in Japan and Mexico and all that. Is there a U.S. league or is it more of an international league?
Um, for these girls deciding to play for Team USA.
Not even Team USA, just going pro.
Oh, going pro, it's kind of like Major League Baseball, how there's teams like in different cities of the U.S., but there are teams, I believe there are teams in Japan and other countries as well, but I'm more familiar with the ones in the U.S.
Yeah, so but there is like a U.S. specific league. They don't report to an international organization.
Correct.
Okay. Do you think that eventually there's going to be some sort of international kind of organization should the sport continue to grow?
Yeah, I would say so as the sport is continuing to grow and as it's becoming more popular, especially in other countries. I could definitely see that.
Okay. And what do you think the biggest, advantage and disadvantages to that?
With there being an international league.
Yeah, just I guess getting bigger in general, because everyone has scaling issues eventually, whether it just be a business or sports or anything like that.
hmm I would, as far as an advantage goes, I would definitely just say there's just a bigger pool of people, I guess, to choose from. So that's how teams would get really good. Um, as far as a disadvantage goes, I'm not sure.
Do you think all the other each country's individual organization would be okay with it?
Probably not. Just because if they do continue to keep softball in the Olympics, then that won't make their individual countries' teams as good. Probably. There won't be that much dedication on their team.
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying with more of an international thing is saying the US has the US softball league, Japan has the Japanese softball league, and they're kept separately. So US players aren't exactly going over and being recruited to the different teams in Japan, but they all come together for a tournament other than, say the Olympics.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I do think Team USA does scrimmage other countries other than the Olympics.
Yeah. But, like, do you think there would be issues with that eventually? Should, like, an international organization form?
Yeah, probably because you would have American people playing for different countries that they're not necessarily from. I don't know. I just think that wouldn't be fair, but that's also kind of a personal preference thing. You can't, there's no rules saying they have to play for Team USA.
Yeah, because, then you get into trading and all that. And if they can trade across countries and all.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of people would argue their trades because, they like living certain places and like maintaining a certain lifestyle.
Right. So I would
go ahead.
Go ahead. I would just definitely say it's a personal preference thing. I know the couple girls that play for Mexico, I know their family is from Mexico. So I think them playing there is just because their family is originated from there. So
Yeah. I mean, it would definitely be interesting to see what direction, if they were to make some sort of international organization, it would take.
Mhm.
And then, like, what is, say, your end game for softball? What is your ultimate goal that you want to do? This is going to, okay, so let me preface this. This is going to be the recurring segment, like the main idea behind the podcast. Since this will be the first episode, I'll explain it now. So each episode, I'm just going to ask, like, the guest end game and, like, what you see as your moment of self-actualization, like, in softball. Where do you see yourself at the point where you can say, wow, I did it, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, currently I'm trying to reach out to college coaches and trying to invite them to my games, sending them letters, letting them know when my games are, and just trying to build a relationship with them from going on college visits and just going to go meet the coaches and talking to them about college softball and what I want to major in college, because ultimately it is about your education in college, but I also want to play college softball. So I'm just trying to find that match where I can play college softball after high school. So I'm currently going through that process of trying to find the right coach and the right softball program that also has my major in college.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, you want the education, but do you care? Should college ball work out, would you consider looking at the pros, or do you just want to go to college and play through that, and that's okay with you?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm trying to go to a college where I can get um, I want to major in sports management,
Yep.
and I'm just trying to go to a college that's nearby maybe a professional sports team or a minor league baseball team where I can start getting those internships in college. So right out of college, I can start working. So I would definitely just see it depending on how I'm doing towards the end of my junior year of college and seeing what kind of job I'll get. If it's a
Yeah,
bigger job, then I don't think I'd play professional.
but mainly focusing on the education, like job after, not really relying on sports.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So, what colleges have you like reached out to?
For softball?
This is the part where you get to call them out and tag them in the show.
Okay. For softball, I've been looking at more colleges here recently. As far as I'm getting ready to start talking to Ohio Dominican's coach, because at Ohio Dominican you can actually get your master's degree in sports management, and I really that really caught my attention. So hopefully I can get some sort of academic scholarship there because they are a little bit more expensive being a private school.
Yep.
I'm also going to be taking a scholarship test at UNOH up in Lima because I've actually been on a campus visit there and I really like their campus and their softball program. So I'm going to be taking a scholarship test there. Hopefully I'll do well. So,
Yeah.
because it's revolved around business, so with being in lab, I think I have a really good shot at doing well.
Definitely.
I've been to a lot of colleges, talked to their coaches, but none of them really stood out to me. The one that was really stood out so far is UNOH up in Lima.
Any reason?
It was their field and their overall campus atmosphere was really. It was kind of a modern atmosphere and just seemed laid back. They had a lot of things for students to do, and all the admissions people there seemed really nice. And if I didn't know that UNOH was a small school, I would have definitely thought they were D1 as far as how nice their campus was. I mean, it was small, but it's only about an hour and a half away from home. So if I needed to come home for the weekend, it's not that far away. But it just kind of felt right when I was there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been able to get out on many college visits yet, but like definitely like everyone that I've talked to before they decided on what school they wanted, there was always that one that kind of stood out and was like it just felt right, you know?
Right.
I know, I think that plays a lot into like people's opinion on like what
Right.
school they choose.
And I'm also trying to get a visit with Ohio University, just because Mr. Geith always talks about how it's a really good school for sports management, and I've heard it's a very pretty school, just being up in the mountains. So I definitely want to see a visit there.
Yeah, definitely Southern Ohio is definitely a super just pretty place to go hang out at, like Hocking Hills and all that. It's great down there. So anything else you want to touch on?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I feel like that's been just super informative. I hope that a lot of people, take something from that. If you're interested in playing softball at a higher level or just getting better, reach out to someone you know. It's easy as that.
It is.
Okay, that'll do it for this episode of the podcast, and I hope you all come back for the next one, talking about cars soon. That'll be interesting. See you then.